we are Group 3, and we will be talking about entering into foreign markets. My name is Sylvia King.
My name is Jasmine Morris.
My name is Carolyn Sudds.
And I'm Maurice Barton.
Entering into foreign markets. There are three crucial dimensions in entering into foreign markets. We have two W's and one H, and they stand for where to enter, when to enter, and how to enter. The first thing we must recognize is that we have to overcome foreign forgiveness. And the liability of foreign forgiveness is the inherent disadvantage that foreign firms experience in most countries because of their non-native status. The first thing is there are numerous differences in the formal and informal institutions governed by the rules of the game in different countries. Local firms are ready and they are well versed in the rules and the regulations of that country, whereas foreign firms will have to learn the rules quickly. The second thing is that foreign firms are still at a heavily discriminated against. In formal institutions, they may lead to regulatory risks due to differences in political, economic, and legal systems. Informally, numerous differences in cultures, norms, values are created another major source of liability for foreigners. And the next thing I want us to know is that whenever we get ready to enter into a foreign market, we should consider location, location, location. There are two steps in considering location. It's the strategic goals and the cultural and institutional distances. With the strategic goals, there are 4 steps. One of them is the natural resource seeking, where we have to go to a particular foreign location where those resources are found. If you are manufacturing a certain resource, you need to put your business in a place where those resources are found. Then there's the marketing seeking, and what that is you go into a country that have a strong demand for the product or the services that you are offering. And then there's efficiency seeking, which is you seek the most efficient location featuring a combination of a scale economy and a low-cost factor. And the final one under strategic goals is innovation seeking. It targets countries and regions renowned for generating a world-class innovation. And the second step would be cultural and institutional distances and foreign entry location. With the cultural distance, it is a difference between two cultures along identifiable dimensions such as individualism. With institutional distance, it is the extent of similarity and dissimilarity between the regulatory, normative, and cognitive institution of two countries. Two schools of thought to overcome these distances is the stage model. And what the stage model is that firms will enter culturally similar countries during their first stage of internationalization and will then gain more confidence to enter culturally distant countries in later stages. And the second thing is it is more important to consider strategic goals such as market and efficiency rather than the culture and institution. And I will now turn when to enter into the hands of my teammate, Ms. Jasmine Morris.
Hi, I will be discussing when to enter a market, and that will be timing of entry. So when firms want to think about expanding their firm to or whatever they want to do, it's important to think about that timing of entry. So early entrants can have like some advantages, and late entrants can have some definite disadvantages. So the advantages of entering a market early are the ability to preempt rivals and capture demands by establishing strong brands ahead of everyone else. And this desire has driven rapid expansion for many companies moving to other countries where there isn't much profit to be made, but however, those early entrants want to get that first mover advantage when that country does turn out to be successful. So for example, McDonald's have established themselves in a lot of countries where they developed a strong following because their branding is super strong and their branding towards the consumers are strong. So there are disadvantages that come from early entrants as well that could give late entrants an advantage. When early entrants move into international markets, they have to have some considerable amount of time to get the knowledge of their country's culture, norms, or values, which is referred to the institutional theory. So pioneer cost comes in due to the lack of their country's culture, their norms, and their values. And so this could be an advantage for the late entrants' mistakes. Well, the late entrants based on the early entries mistakes. So the late entrants could basically do better. And so now I want to turn it into Sylvia King when it comes to Carolyn Sudds on how to enter the market.
Good evening, all. My name is Carolyn Sudds, and as explained in Chapter 10, there are quite a few things to take into consideration when entering the foreign market. I will go ahead and speak on a few. First of all, it is important to decide how you will enter the foreign market. Deciding whether you will enter on a large scale or a smaller scale is crucial because there are different requirements involved. Entering on a large scale requires more time and less flexibility. The owner would suffer a great loss of timing and location if timing and location is not suitable. The larger scale also requires a substantial amount of commitment and carries a greater risk, while the smaller scale is less costly. With the smaller scale also, you basically learn as you go, which lessens the risk. However, the commitment is not as strong. Modes of entry are important key steps when entering the foreign market as well. The first step is equity versus non-equity. Management and their decisions are very important in the success or downfall of the company. An advantage of the non-equity mode would be a better control over distribution or direct exports, while a disadvantage would be the trade barriers and protectionism. Non-equity modes basically deals with the smaller commitments to overseas markets, and the equity mode deals with larger commitments that are hard to reverse given the possible issues that could come forth. As also mentioned in Chapter 10, the first step in the mode entry considerations is crucial. Management would have to make a decision on whether or not to undertake FDI or MNE. And now I will introduce my teammate, Maurice Barton.
How y'all doing? So talking about the second step of the modes of entry, which is making the actual selections, there's two ways of making the actual selection. Is going through direct and indirect export. Direct export being something that's usually concentrated in the home country, and when a distributor have more control over what they're sending across the seas. And indirect exporting is usually when you start exporting through intermediaries, and it's not usually ideal for larger companies who want to keep their eyes on things. So that's probably not their best bet. And then the chapter also talks about contractual agreements with for entry modes. One of them being licensing and franchising, And it's when a client, it's when a client agrees to sell the rights to their company for royalties, for a royalty fee. And then there's also the turnkey project. And the turnkey project is when clients wants to pay a contractor to build an establishment. And then 3 is the build, operate, and transfer agreement. And that kind of let the name speak for itself. It's when it's used and it want to make a long-term presence felt. So what they do is they build an establishment, they run it for a couple years, and then they trade it with another firm. And then there's the research and development contract, and that's just outsourcing agreements with other resources and development teams in different firms. In the chapter also talk about other entry modes, which include co-marketing, which is joint firms, and joint ventures, which is a newly created company between two joint companies. They like to use the term corporate child, Wally-owned subsidiaries, and greenfield operations. And greenfield operations are usually building an establishment from scratch. And with that said, that is the second step of modes of entry. And I will be bringing back up my teammate Sylvia.
This brings our presentation to a conclusion and entering into foreign markets. And we would like for you to remember where to enter, when to enter, and how to enter.